I'll read two poems from another series a little later on called the Gorky Poems. And that's Arshile Gorky, great, depending how you take him, surrealist painter, abstract expressionist painter, and kind of poetics coming out of that. And I think mostly I'm playing on the titles of paintings. He would work in series often. So I'll start with a poem called The Pirate. There were several poems, several paintings called The Pirate. The Pirate. This man was a pilgrim. For what? For a journey? What kind of a journey? For ice. The snow heaven turns into stone, the snow garden vanishes under the sea. Who had dreamed it? Who breaks rocks, moves an inch either way? Who eats iron? What a country of robots. The way of the Lord is through ice. This is the Lord's day. And that, a silver brilliance, cold, hard, painful, blue, a true flag of colors. No, a paper bag. The shadows in a paper bag that no one sees, the high-pitched laughter no one hears, the ice no one feels. What men, what stone in their voices, what glass in their blood, what iron, what flesh, what bright eyes. This stone, this iron, in a dream, still worse when no one dreams it. And I don't know where the title for the next one comes from. Child of an Idumean night. Idumea, Old Testament stuff, one of the dangerous kingdoms. And this is written, as we get on into the 60s and the Vietnam War. And I don't know if you could feel it as a presence behind the poem, or maybe right into it. It begins actually with a quote from Paul Klee in his role as poet. So it's, again, in three parts. I, the fat god, I, the good gardener, deposit me in your heart and go to war gaily, be a singer to Philistia and carry an American flag to the border. Oh, Jerusalem, oh, city of mechanics, covered with hair afire, beard against beard, a row of tigers stands there. Be holy, I say, write on water. Become the first architect, be father of your race, and let men fuck your beard. 2. I, tallow, I, voice of Holocaust, I, crystal, I, open door, I, decimal, I, winter solstice, I, willow, I, dancer, I, wind udder, I, parchment, I, avatar, I, shoe, I, harmonica, I, tongue of doves, I, emblem, I, regiment, I, globus, I, pustule, I, tooth, I, tumescence, I, father of tractors, I, who swallow the dead, I, who die, I, who ship the jackal, I, who swell. 3. They walk, eyes in chest, believing their peace, their warm days. They burrow, they call me master. They say and we dream, master, master, candle with how many wicks, destroyer, worshiper, god of the tsars, old father, old language. The father spoke and wrote it in brass, and that was the testament in brass, and there were other testaments in iron, and still other testaments, and still other old languages. And I wallowed, and I bathed in the heavy water. Master, master, I was firm and substantive. I showed myself. I labeled this part hair and that part tendon, and I reached between my legs. I grew fat. I became the father of my race. My wide hips in the dust. My heart was with the children, believing their peace, their warm days, and still other testaments. I bellowed. I spat. I made thunder. I was first before the Senate. Someone called me master, master, child of an Idumean night, possessor, murderer, First to sit on the stone, to ride the locomotive and be lost, and to proclaim the kingdom, and to be lost again, and swollen again, and fattened without a sense of repetition, but made fat with fatness in the dust, my wide hips in the dust, and I reached between my legs, and I wallowed, and I bathed in the heavy water. My throne, my sweet light, my substance, this Tsar did many good things, though he was no father. From a series of poems called the Lorca Variations, because I was also very much involved with translating. So Lorca early, Picasso later, Nesval from the Czech, translations of languages I didn't know, with the help of others, sometimes just plunging blindly into it. I had done a series of Lorca translations from a collection of early poems called The Suites, which were not really published until decades after Lorca's death. And I thought that Forrest Strauss was going to allow me to publish that as a separate book, but they held me to a contract that put it into collected translations of Lorca by many people. And, I didn't have my homage to Lorca. So I went back to the poems and went poem by poem, extracting nouns, Lorca's nouns, but now in English, and recasting them into new poems. So this is the most ambitious of those, called Second New York Poem. And of course, we connect Lorca with New York through that great series, Poet in New York. So it begins with Lorca in Spanish. El mascarón, mirad el mascarón, como viene del África a New York. If you understand, the mass of the mass, how it comes from Africa to New York. And each of the sections starts with just a line from Lorca. 1. They are gone, the pepper trees. Half of it was sand, and what remained was mercury and made him tremble, too afraid to rub it in while visioning a hippopotamus who stalked through everlastings and other animals who crossed those endless bridges whom he could bring down with a spear, their beaks grown dormant, their flesh nailed onto trees from which he used to cut his masks, would wear his masks around New York, half crazy. Wasn't he the bright gazelle mask flashing where he walked? What joy to be among you at this gathering, he thought, to spend this time with you, here where the wheat rot, swans rut, camels plod among the peppers, and the mask that shows you fear, the mask dissolving into sand like solitude and ashes where the light has died away. So recently, the cat is playing with a cork, and all things come into this other light. The phosphorus ignites over New York, where death's a crocodile and sunlight makes the world grow darker, where a sword cuts through my throat, my feet, where silence covers everything, where eyes turn white, where time turns inside out, like valleys rife with mutilated buds in Africa, inviting us to join their dance of death. 2. Title. Canyons of Lime Imprisoned. A fond farewell at the border. See the dead and how they hunker down, who bring us hurricanes, those naked masks, those shameless tumulters, who tempt us with strange lights. Horses will ride past, slender mounts for children, edging their way through niches, squeezing into bank vaults. Wall Street, poor and empty, roofs for which manometers break into pieces, and the channels they leave behind excite the iris. Yes, and voices cut across New York, and someone wears a mask that looks like North America, and someone else counts up the unemployed whose numbers brought together in a frozen dance. Oh, Lorca, darken the sky. These herds are what we will become. Their frenzy will be ours tomorrow. Oh, my naked heart. We watch the Sphinx together squatting inside the cemetery. She with a bank director's mask, and you a Chinaman's. Your profile soon identical, except that you still sing your deep song while the sky fills up with down and flies grow faint and then invisible. Time hides inside you. Can you feel it? Does it press against your mask? Whose groans are rising in this place? Whose blood is on our blueprints even now? Is there a formula to chart the impetus we feel, a yellow thread to recollect it? When I dance, the naked wife says, it is no less for money. When I give you tail, you fade in me and die. The stillness overtakes you. The sky is split asunder. Lime and mire splatter on the snow. The night makes even gold turn black for us, who wait here at our windows, watch old columns lit by flames, the impetus returning like a wheel that spins forever in an empty bank vault. See it with your own eyes. Hear it cross this space in silence. Watch her naked body in your mirrors. Feel the sap press upward as if moving among mountains. Guano everywhere, to drown in guano, living, buried in its canyons. 3, title, I was on the terrace wrestling with the moon. Below us, men in iron masks who rob a bank lie buried in a landscape with a dead fear dripping from them, seeds of light under our windows where those who pass us groan like swarms of cattle, press against store windows that reflect the sky first, then the blood that spurts up when you bite an apple, sweetly, sweetly, when the dancers mass around us, others dressed like shepherds crying silver tears, cold earthworms standing on street corners in the dawn, near where the young girl rises from the flames, still others whom you couldn't know cut off her hands with broken shells, the tiny drops igniting in the air, smear yolks between her thighs, and beat the moon with oars, as I do, wrestling on this ancient terrace. Watch me, whose eyes blaze in the night like stars, who gaze down Broadway like a prairie, I who offer up a mollusk for the dead, slam virulent guitars against my thighs, who wait with Lorca on a fire escape, a pyramid behind us, to welcome our forgotten king and pope. 4, title, Don't Let the Pope Dance, someone cries. Don't let the Pope dance, someone cries. El Mascaron, mirad, el Mascaron. It's Lorca crying. Lorca coughing poison over Wall Street, dreaming of a courtyard covered with blue mosses, of sodomites and masks, cathedrals where frail millionaires adore a king, where dancers drift around like madmen, scorched by scarlet fever, stung by nettles. And it's Lorca perched atop his pyramid. It's Lorca smuggling rifles through the forest. Lorca in the mask of anguish trapped in vines. Or Lorca in the stock exchange, the floor collapsing under him. It's Lorca in a mask with emeralds for teeth. A mask to charm the Pope back to New York, to wear in jungles, to stare out of on terraces. A mask with cobras the builders have forsaken. The Pope has jammed over his own, not dancing, no, but turning blue, cries out with Lorca, with a mask. It's Lorca's mask we wear together now. El Mascaron, he cries to us. A mask, the mask. Manifesto 1968. I think of myself as making poems that other poets haven't provided for me, and for the existence of which I feel a deep need. I look for new forms and possibilities, but also for ways of presenting in my own language the oldest possibilities of poetry, going back to the primitive and archaic cultures that have been opening up to us over the last 100 years. I have most recently been translating American Indian poetry, including the meaningless syllables, word distortions, and music, and have been exploring ancestral sources of my own in the world of Jewish mystics, thieves, and madmen. I believe that everything is possible in poetry, and that our earlier Western attempts at definition represent a failure of perception we no longer have to endure.